Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill, as I do every month, to answer any questions you may have, particularly important for years like this. Every 3 years, write a new book, and on my book writing years, I am not on the road as much as I was, but in 2020, I will be back. My next book comes out December 2019. And maybe I'll do 200 cities or so like I did last time, and hopefully come to a city near you. But until then, every month at least we can do Q&As. I just did a live Facebook and now here on YouTube, which I actually like better because I don't miss any questions because the questions just get kind of lined up and don't scroll past me. So let me get to the top and see what you have to ask. All right. And Anurag Nailuri asks, why isn't DHA in the Daily Dozen? So actually the Daily Dozen doesn't include any supplements at all. These are the kind of, things that encourage people to fit into their daily routine. B12, for example, can be taken once a week. So there's nothing you need to check off every day. 2,500 micrograms of cyanocobalamin would be my recommendation. And vitamin D you can get from adequate sunshine. Only for those getting inadequate sunlight need to worry about supplementing their diet with vitamin D. And DHA is so DHA, this long chain omega-3 fatty acids. So I encourage people to consider a pollutant-free source of DHA, 250 milligrams of DHA and or EPA every day. Sorry, I just got done eating lunch. If you don't have greens in your teeth, you're not doing it right. So why isn't it in the Daily Dozen? It's something I encourage people to take every day, and that's because so that's the World Health Organization said we should get these preformed DHA. You can get it from toxin-free sources through the algae or yeast-based sources, but whether or not we should take DHA every day is a controversial subject in the field of nutrition, probably one of the most controversial in the field of plant-based nutrition. And basically, I laid out all the science. So I have a series of videos say, should we take it or not? Well, it's up to you. And so here's the data that convinced me. If it convinces you, do it. If it doesn't convince you, then don't do it. And I'll update you as new studies come out. So kind of make up your mind, as opposed to something like vitamin B12, critically important to have a regular, reliable source of vitamin B12. No controversy whatsoever. So you have to actually do it. But it's still actually not technically part of the Daily Dozen, but it was included on the Daily Dozen app. Again, don't need to take it every day, but just kind of as a reminder. But I just saw the other day it has vitamin D in there. Really shouldn't be in there. We're going to take that out of the app and make it a little clearer what I mean by vitamin B12. I mean cyano, not methyl, and I mean either 250 micrograms a day or 2,500 once a week. Joe Rab asked, what kind of cookware do I use? And of course, the real question is, what's the best cookware to use? Not what I particularly do. People just assume that I follow all my recommendations, which I try to do, but anyway. It's hard to get 90 minutes of exercise every day when I'm sitting on my butt in an airplane all day or whatever, or eating in an airport food court. I do my best. That's all we can all ever do. I think I get the question. So what we want to stay away from is nonstick pans for the fluorocarbons. And if I don't have a video already, the hydrofluorocarbons, I have videos in the works talking about some of these, like these Teflon compounds. Not a good idea. You can use cast iron pans. You can use stainless steel, that would be. And maybe you can look at my videos on aluminum, and if that convinces you that you don't want to add extra aluminum in your life, then that's maybe something you want to stay away from as well. Okay, Jay Tampa asks, how do I deal with diverticulitis since going plant-based? So to prevent diverticula, which can get inflamed, called diverticulitis. So diverticulosis turns into diverticulitis when it gets inflamed. The diverticulosis, these diverticula, are these little outpouchings from your colon caused by pressure when you bear down on a stool. You shouldn't have to bear down on a stool like having a baby. Stool should be soft and large and should just come out naturally without you having to push it all because you're eating lots of fiber. Where's fiber found? Concentrated in beans, whole grains, but all whole plant foods have fiber. Missing from animal foods altogether, and missing in large part from processed plant foods. That's why one of the reasons we should all try to center our diets around whole plant foods. So the best way to prevent diverticulitis is to not have diverticulosis by eating a high fiber diet. And so populations that have high fiber diets don't get diverticulosis. In terms of keeping it from getting inflamed, it's actually very similar advice. Continue to eat lots of whole, healthy plant foods. There used to be the thought that people with diverticulosis should not eat like popcorn and seeds because it could get stuck in one of those little outpouchings and then become inflamed. Because often on surgery, they took out a piece of bowel and they found a little seed or something in there, but it was the reverse causation. It was the fact that it was inflamed, that seed got stuck in there, not the other way around. And indeed, when it was actually put to the test, those who eat foods like popcorns and nuts and seeds actually have lower rates of diverticulitis. And so that was common medical misconception. So much in medicine is not based on evidence. That's why there's actually a field, there's a movement called evidence-based medicine. Can you believe that? Like, what other science isn't that just presumed? Like evidence-based engineering, evidence-based chemistry, you just kind of assume, right? But not in medicine. That's how far things have gone off the rails. And don't get me started on nutrition. All right. Bill Reeve asks, how do I help bloating on a whole food plant-based diet? So one way to do that, I don't know if this is the case for you, is to start going slow. So if you've been eating cheeseburgers and milkshakes your whole life without any fiber, so your microbiome is not ready to all of a sudden jump to kale and quinoa to large amounts of prebiotics, and you can get gas and bloating, and so encourage people to go slow. And so there's studies showing, so I have videos on this where you give people like canned chickpeas, randomize people to chickpeas or control, which was cooked carrots, and found that for most people, actually didn't matter. They didn't get any gas, didn't get any bloating. And even those that did, the minority that did, went away in 2 weeks. So they just their microbiome got used to all the wonderful goodies coming down and had a healthier microbiome, and symptoms went away. So, but some people are really sensitive and may want to start even like small, like a tablespoon of beans a day, right? Start there, move on up if you start experiencing gas and bloating. But eventually you should get to my recommendation of 3 servings a day of legumes and have a healthy microbiome to support it. And I have a blog called, and if just type in gas and beans, it'll pop right up. It has lots of practical suggestions. There's also this little indigestible sugar, enzyme drops. Worst comes to worst. Important thing is eat your beans. Patricia Devaney asks, are greens and fruit smoothies good for children? I can't get my kids to eat enough fresh greens. Well, a lot of adults aren't eating greens either, but smoothies is a fantastic way to get greens into children. You can also mix it into sauces and all sorts of other things. I got videos on blending vegetables into various dishes. I guess you do have a green smoothie video, but it's not really green. It's more of kind of a red smoothie based on tomato. But certainly have green smoothie recipes in the How Not to Die cookbook. So in terms of our green smoothies good for you, I've got a whole series. In fact, I think one of the videos, our green smoothie is good for you. And so check out the series. So there's some caveats like dental erosion, like, they can be sour. And so you want to like rinse your mouth out with water after you drink it so you don't erode any enamel, little things like that. But otherwise, fantastic way to get lots of greens in you and them. All right. Derek Reeve asks, hi. Are there any studies into whether cooked, then cooled oats have an increase in resistant starch? Oh, just like potatoes. That's interesting. So, starch in, for example, pasta, white potatoes can become crystallized when you cook then cool it. So potato salad, cold pasta salad actually has more resistant starch, more prebiotics for good gut bacteria than hot potatoes, hot pasta. And the question is, well, what if you cook and then cool oats? You have the same effect. Oh, it also works with corn porridge. Cold corn. I don't know who's eating cold corn porridge, but it works for that too. Of course, you can heat it back up. Still crystallized. Does it happen in oats? I do not know. That's a good question. But resistant starch is a good thing. One of the two things that are good gut bacteria eat, the other being fiber. What I would recommend is to eat oats anyway. Will get you to eat the most of them. Of course, there are healthier forms of oats than others. Even, in fact, I have a chapter in my upcoming book, not chapter, section, on what's called food form, and where I compare and contrast the health benefits of whole oats, which are actually the whole oat groat, compared to steel cut oats, which is an oat groat cut in like 2-3 pieces, compared to rolled oats, where they basically roll the groat, based on really thin slices of oats for like instant oatmeal versus like oat flour, all of which have the exact same ingredients. Oats, one ingredient, oat, whole plant food, oats, right? But they actually have different effects on your body. And so even that process, so by my definition of processing, which is nothing bad added, nothing good taken away, that's unprocessed. 100% green light food, even oat powder, oat flour, right? 100% green light, all whole plant foods. It's still better to eat your nutrition intracellularly, surrounded by these indigestible cell walls, and that's what happens before you powder your carbohydrates. So even whole wheat flour, for example, is even though it's a whole plant food, has negative physiological effects compared to, for example, wheat berries, because you've broken open the cell walls, which is something that does not happen in nature, but happens in a mill. So anyway, so basically, powdered carbs, not great, even if they're whole foods, with the exception, interestingly, of pasta, which actually is digested closer to intact grains than flour products. Boy, I could go on and on about that. But okay. There's so many more questions. Scorpion asks, I'm not even going to try that last name. What can I do against eczema on your hands? I've got videos. In fact, they're recent, like just within the last year. And I felt bad. I've gone years and years. There's 1,500 videos on the site and hadn't done eczema yet. Atopic dermatitis, very common. So frustrating. But finally I did it. And so there's things you can do on the inside, on your outside, things you can put on your hands and put internally to get out into your hands. That will help with eczema. Check out the videos on NutritionFacts.org. Lawrence Kirsch asks, what's the best way to reduce inflammation, diet or otherwise? Thanks. How about an anti-inflammatory diet? And so if you type in inflammation, in fact, I think it's one of the popular topics. I've got all the videos. In fact, I handpicked about a dozen of the best videos to watch. And so, ginger, turmeric, some of the spices are powerful anti-inflammatory. In fact, it can even been put head-to-head against corticosteroids and anti-inflammatory drugs, these NSAID drugs like ibuprofen and aspirin, in terms of for arthritis and other things. So, yes, powerful anti-inflammatory effects without the downsides of something like aspirin, ibuprofen, which can have negative gastrointestinal side effects and cause damage to your intestinal tract. All right. But anyway, fiber-rich foods are anti-inflammatory because of the things that your microbiome makes with the fiber, and then you're absorbed back in your system, circulate throughout your body. The antioxidant-rich foods are anti-inflammatory because some of the inflammation is caused by proteins and other molecules in our body that are attacked by oxidant stress, and they actually change their shape and are attacked as foreign by the body, and you get this kind of autoimmune friendly fire response. And you can prevent that reaction from happening by eating antioxidant-rich foods. On and on. Lots of videos about inflammation. But great question, because chronic low-grade inflammation may play a role in a variety of different chronic conditions, many of our leading killers like diabetes and heart disease, etc. All right. Any reason to take an alpha lipoic acid supplement? Not that I know of. Cami Black, high folate and low vitamin D. All other blood work is perfect. Type of band, take a vegan vitamin D. I'm in the sun daily. Eat all sorts of vitamin D rich foods. Okay, well, if you're in the sun daily, eat less vitamin D rich foods, and your vitamin D is low, then looks like the video is halted there. I don't know if it'll catch up, or I should just pause. Here, let me see. Maybe I'm the only one no, it looks like I'm doing fine. I'm sorry. It just must be my browser. Where were we? Oh, okay. So the problem is with the vitamin D test is that they're not great tests, such that you send the same blood sample to 100 different laboratories and you get wildly different results, such that low vitamin D actually might not be low vitamin D. You can get tested, or you can take vitamin D supplement, 2,000 international units. Vitamin D3 a day should be all the vitamin D most people need. I wouldn't worry about. So I wonder if I don't know why they would test for a folate level. I wonder if that test would pick up folic acid, and if it did, and if you're taking folic acid supplement, excess folic acid, that might not be a good thing, as I talked about in my Facebook Live. Mary Kessler, isn't choline a necessary nutrient? Absolutely. Then how can it be harmful to one's health? Is the question. So water is a necessary nutrient. Drink too much water and you die. You literally die. You wash out the electrolytes from your brain, you drop dead. Okay. So that's how something can be a necessary nutrient, but can be harmful. Iron, that's another good example. You can be low in iron, that's not good. You can be anemic, but have high in iron. You can get all sorts of horrible diseases of your liver, and these iron overload, toxicity diseases. Yeah, absolutely. It's all about not getting excess choline. I talk about that in all my TMAO videos on why we should minimize our intake of eggs, poultry, and seafood. And for the same reason, red meat for the carnitine, which turns into the same end product, which is trimethylamine oxide in the body. Zach Plunkett asks, if I was personally diagnosed with cancer, would I consider chemo and radiation, or would I try combating it with diet? Or would you do both? I like that there's another option there. So it would depend on the cancer. So for some cancers, such as testicular cancer and childhood leukemia, chemotherapy has remarkable, wonderful success rates. Truly, these are triumphs. Unfortunately, for most cancers, most common cancers, breast, lung, colon, etc. Very disappointing. In fact, I have a video recently came out with a video talking about the improvement in 5-year survival rates. Dismal. And so I'd have to make a decision. You always, as with anything, particularly in medicine, when it has to do with something life and death important, the health of your family, risk versus benefits. And so I'd see, is this really going to help me? Is it just going to shrink the tumor? Who cares if my tumor shrinks, if I don't get to live longer or feel better? Or maybe even if it doesn't make me live longer, by shrinking the tumor, it'll take pressure off some nerve and have less pain. That's the legitimate reason. But regardless of what I'm doing, all of the above, you could still eat healthy. And so absolutely, I would eat a super healthy diet. And again, that particular diet would depend on what kind of cancers. And so, I have data on, for example, breast cancer survival with flax seeds and soy foods, improving breast cancer survival, decreasing recurrence rates. There's a lung cancer study on survival in broccoli consumption. And so, that esophageal cancer study with strawberries. So there may be some foods that may be better than others for particular cancers. Okay. Oh, and there was that great case report out of True North with that lymphoma case treated with water-only fasting, followed by a plant-based diet. That was really impressive. Anyway, okay, moving right along. David Woods, if you can't just eat flax seeds every day, if you can't eat flax seeds every day, are chia seeds a good alternative for omega-3 fatty acids? If so, how many chia seeds? Oh, interesting. Okay. So absolute chia seeds have omega-3s, and they have lots of soluble fiber. So are super healthy, and have a wonderful texture. And ideally, you should grind them up, though. Actually, so powdered flax seeds, powdered chia seeds, ground chia seeds, would be preferable in terms of maximizing your absorption of omega-3s found within. But in terms of how much, that's a good question. I think flax seeds has 2.2 grams of ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, the short-chain omega-3s per tablespoon. I don't know about chia seeds, but it's pretty close. They're both pretty high in omega-3s. Walnuts, another choice. Hemp seeds, another choice as well. But the reason I really would strongly encourage you to go the flaxseed route instead is because of the lignans, these anti-cancer fighting compounds found really concentrated only one place, and that's flax seeds. Like it's 100 times more in flax seeds than almost everything else, with the exception of sesame seeds. But even then, they are a distant second. All right. Chaz Lawn asks, how do you calculate the number of calories to eat based on my weight? Oh, to lose weight. Fantastic. There are two. There's two calorie calculators. One out of school in Pennsylvania. Was the University of Pittsburgh? I forget. But anyway, I like the NIH one better. You put in NIH body weight planner or something. Let's see if we can find that. NIH body weight planner. I know that's not what it's called, but it's called the body weight planner. Oh, I nailed it. All right. So www.niddk.nih.gov/BWP body weight planner, or just Google NIH body weight planner. And all will be revealed. And that is thanks to Kevin Hall, one of my a favorite researcher of mine, who came up with these really ingenious equations for helping to calculate calorie changes in dietary calorie intake based on weight loss. And so you can see how people are reporting. So then you don't have to rely so heavily on dietary surveys, which people underreport on, particularly people who are overweight. Okay. Marie Kessler asked, please discuss the Warburg effect, the influence of carbohydrate sugar to prevent cancer. Oh, that is so cool. I'm going to have a whole, I'm probably going to have that in my July webinar, along with all my fasting videos. So basically, there's a sense that sugar feeds cancer, and so if you have cancer, you should not eat sugar. But see, so yes, cancer cells can thrive off of sugar, but all cells thrive off of sugar. That's what cells eat. That's like saying Hitler breathes air, so therefore oxygen isn't good for you, or something. I mean, it doesn't make any sense just because. Anyway, so I mean, what would be interesting is if cancer somehow preferentially likes sugar. Otherwise, it doesn't make any difference. There are other cancers that actually preferentially eat ketones. They actually eat ketones. They don't eat sugar. And it's anyway, the bottom line is that what happens if you eat sugar and you have cancer? Do people like diabetics who have high sugar levels? Does that works in terms of prognosis? I go through all that. And basically, sugar isn't good for anybody, but you have these cancer patients avoiding fruit, which is like the worst possible thing you can do because it's one of the healthiest foods on the planet. Kendra Garcia as best and worst foods for eczema. That's as I just mentioned, I did a video on that very topic. So please check it out. And also, I did a video on stuff you can apply to your hands for eczema. Carl Kramer asked, since I advised everyone to supplement vitamin D and B12, a little iodine, what's wrong with taking a daily multivitamin? Okay. I didn't recommend supplementing with iodine unless you're pregnant. But I do encourage people to eat iodine-rich foods, such as snacking on nori sheets. So 2 sheets of nori seaweed a day. Get all the iodine you need, which is only about 150 micrograms a day. There's lots of other ways you can get iodine. You can sprinkle dulse on things. So sea vegetables, though, that's really where iodine is concentrated, although it's found throughout the kind of plant kingdom, depending on what kind of soil they were grown in. Vitamin D, again, don't need to take vitamin D if you're getting adequate sunlight. And I have videos and all that on exactly what latitude you have to be and how light your skin has to be, et cetera, and what latitude. I think I already said that. Okay, vitamin B12. Oh, yes, of course, vitamin B12, non-negotiable. Regular, reliable source, 2,500 micrograms cyanocobalamin once a week. Probably the cheapest way to do that. That's what I do. Okay, but what's wrong with taking a daily multivitamin? Well, daily multivitamin. Well, first of all, the B12 of the multivitamin is maybe attacked by some of the metals like copper, because usually add minerals, so it's a vitamin mineral supplement, and can turn the B12 into an analog form, so it can destroy the B12, which is kind of ruins the most important reason why you'd be taking a supplement in the first place. And look, you don't need particularly men, or for women who are not of childbearing age. I don't need to take excess iron. In fact, that could be dangerous. Folic acid may not be a good idea. We should get our folate from beans and greens. And so that's why you just take what you need. You don't want to. There's this sense that multivitamins are totally. It's just like, well, no, it's like an insurance policy, as if there are no potential downsides, but that is not the case. Yo Bro Beans asks, how dangerous are lectins? Yeah, I've got 3 videos, a video series on lectins. One is talks about Plant Paradox, Dr. Gundry's book, and then I talk about. I talk all about everything you ever want to know about lectins, exactly how much you have to cook foods to destroy lectins. Basically, if you cook beans until they're edible, you've destroyed the lectins. So it's not something you have to worry about, unless you're trying to sprout kidney beans or something crazy like that. And nobody does that, and no one certainly should do that. Otherwise, you would get very sick, violently sick. Don't try it at home. Leanne A asks, what was my lunch today? Oh, great question. Well, so I actually had lunch right before my Facebook Live, and then I had dessert between Facebook Live and YouTube. Dessert was, of course, Bari dates. It is officially Bari date season, people. And so the date people, here's my favorite dates. They don't pay me to say that, although they do give me dates. So I will disclaim that, but only because I have never found dates that taste better. Not saying there aren't better tasting dates. Oh, actually, domestically in Saudi Arabia, I was given the best dates of my life, but I haven't been able to find a way to import those. But here, the best dates I'm able to get my hands on are these bar dates, and they just came out. It's always right before my birthday. So they sent me dates. And they are the most delicious thing. It is you put them in the freezer. They're like caramel candy. Oh, so I had that and my favorite kind of apple, Honeycrisp apples. Again, this is the season. I wait all year. And of course, last week, pawpaw season. In fact, someone speaking in Ohio the other week actually gave me pawpaws in line, my absolute favorite fruit, the largest Native American, North American fruit. It's like a banana mango custard, delicious tropical amazingness. I actually have some pawpaws growing in the backyard. Hopefully they are both male and female. Otherwise, I will never have any pawpaws. It's a really interesting way to garden. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent. That was my dessert. What was lunch? I'm out of time. But my lunch was a was tomato sauce. I was spaghetti and tomato sauce. So whole wheat pasta, obviously, and then spaghetti sauce made with canned whole tomatoes in a not in BPA free can. Threw it in a blender, blend them up, kind of make my own little tomato sauce, and then I just sautéed in wine the onions and garlic and added some capers and a few calamari olives, not too many to ruin my sodium intake for the day. And then lots of fresh herbs from the garden. In the back, we have sage and rosemary and oregano. Not traditional Italian seasoning herbs, at least the rosemary, but delicious. And what else did I put in there? Oh, we had bell peppers and we had some hot peppers from the CSA, Community Supported Agriculture thing we belong to. So lots of peppers. And then, of course, greens, kale, 3 bags of this little baby kale that we got. So good. Mostly, I actually just put in the pasta water. So it cooked along with the pasta. But of course, I kept some to keep that myrosinase enzyme intact to attack all the other, glucosinolase to make that wonderful sulforaphane. You can read all about that or watch in my video the second strategy to something about broccoli. Anyway, I could have sprinkled some mustard powder, but anyway, and then put that all together. Add some little hot sauce. What I didn't do? I didn't have beans. I'd just been traveling. Normally I always have beans, open can of beans. I didn't have any beans. I should just make some beans. So I should have added some beans. I'm not going to get that check. I make the Daily Dozen today. Quick. All right. For a late afternoon snack, I will eat some hummus. Thank you so much for a reminder. I should have had my Daily Dozen app open free on iPhone and Android. Thanks, everybody. See you later. See you next month.